Yes, welcome in. We're back. And for anybody not watching on YouTube, if you're listening to this, you can watch us on YouTube. You can find us up on the Camp YouTube page. Certainly would appreciate a follow. And if you want to watch there, you certainly can. As I said earlier, I don't know that you're getting anything a ton more, except you get to see our reactions to stupid things that we say. And usually it's me saying something stupid and Jesse reacting with a face, but there are occasions that I'll also make a face or two. But plenty to get to in the show. We've got Rukeem Stroud going to UCF instead of Wisconsin. We've got Nick Clayton committing to Wisconsin. The number's still at 20 for now. And as we usually do, there will be something that'll happen in the next day or so. It'll make this not time worthy again, or no, what, out of time already? What do we say?
Well, I don't appreciate this denigration of the Camp podcast because maybe we're a lucky charm for Badgers fans. Maybe you should look at it that way.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. And then we also are going to be talking about the best games that we've been at environment wise for Wisconsin. Jesse, since he's been covering the team since 2011, me since being a fan growing up. And then we've also maybe a little bit into that, Jesse, is EA Sports released their best or their toughest stadium rankings for the new game that's going to be coming out in a couple of, like 3 weeks. It's not too far away. And Wisconsin's in the top 10. Camp Randall's in the top 10. Have some thoughts on that as well. And we're also going to close the show with a special guest. It is Brady Collins, Wisconsin's strength and conditioning coordinator. Always a good time chatting with him. And we'll get to talk to him about SquatFest, which is coming up this Friday, and also plenty more stuff. But I think, obviously, Jesse, we probably need to start with what happened earlier this week with Rukeem Stroud, the 3-star cornerback out of Florida, out of Tampa, who announced his commitment to Wisconsin. He was one of the 10 guys that announced his commitment to Wisconsin in the month of June, and 3 weeks later, he has flipped his commitment to UCF. I know that he is a little bit smaller than some of the other corners that they've recruited, but just pure corner-wise, coverage ability, it really stood out on tape. So I feel like this is a little bit of a hit certainly for Wisconsin.
Well, it's less than ideal, but I think this is something we will continue to see, not necessarily guys decommitting every year, but just Luke Fickell and his staff have broadened the reach of where Wisconsin wants to go now. Obviously, Wisconsin has had success with Florida defensive backs under previous staff, but just in general. And we saw this last year as well. If you got a guy who commits and then you're going to go take other visits and you're going to start tweeting about other scholarship offers you receive, I think Luke Fickell would view it this way. I certainly do. You are absolutely not committed. And really, it's kind of a fight to the finish when you ultimately do make your decision. But if you notice, Stroud did commit initially to Wisconsin coming off that official visit. Then he started tweeting about some offers that he received. Vanderbilt offered. And then the UCF one, which ultimately proved to be the biggest one because he visited and ended up committing to UCF. It's a Florida kid staying home. Obviously, that's something that he wanted to do. Wisconsin, I think, still is in a pretty decent position from a defensive back perspective. I know I mentioned this previously. Some of those other guys are more safeties. That's how they're projected. Jameer Scott is a 4-star safety out of Ohio. They've got Grant Dean. They've got the Luke Emmerich kid, who they view as an athlete. Could be a defensive back, could be a wide receiver. Jameer Washington is a cornerback from Chicago. So maybe they don't necessarily have as many straight up cornerbacks as they would want because you lost a Stroud. But this stuff is going to happen every year. You can't prevent somebody from going on future visits. I know under previous staffs, like they would make a point to say, and I'm sure it's with this group as well, don't commit until you are finalized with your decision. If you want to go visit other schools, that's great. Wait to make your decision. But oftentimes we see guys, especially who aren't from Wisconsin, haven't necessarily been around the program, they get caught up in the moment. And we saw this last year with someone who ended up flipping to Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, another Florida cornerback. And so it's part of the recruiting game.
Was it Strickland?
No, I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah. It was the one that initiated the tweet from Aaron Henry and Antonio Finellis, like dancing around, get used to it. And Antonio Finellis lost his job after last season. So unfortunate for him. We did not get used to it. I actually liked Antonio. So that was unfortunate. But actually, who else was in that was it, and then Wisconsin after they beat Illinois, it was Haynes, and I think it might have been Greg Scruggs that did the same thing. So yeah, what was his name?
I need to look it up.
I thought you were looking it up. That's what I was doing. I was wasting time here, Jesse. I was giving you time to look it up. Oh man. Yeah, he didn't like. He lasted like a week though. Like it was like a week
Vernon Woodward.
Yeah, he lasted. How long did he last? Like he lasted like a week.
Yeah,
and it was
not
like
very
the next.
long.
Yeah, and then the next week it was going the other way. So
if you look at the 2024 decommits, the one that was not expected, the Vernon Woodward one, so that was a kid from Winter Park, Florida. Now the Austin Alexander one was a cornerback they had initially, but that was pretty early on. I think maybe even before
it was like the first one.
There. Yeah, the first one, and so they moved on from him. Rob Booker came back to Wisconsin, and then Kamir Prescott was a safety from Philly that I suppose the wording would be mutually agreed to part ways. But this stuff is going to happen every year. So took a couple extra minutes longer than it should to throw out the name Vernon Woodward. I knew his last name started with a W. It's hard to keep track of all of them sometimes.
It is. And he's also not at Wisconsin anymore. So who really cares is probably the biggest part of that. And it was last year. And how many kids do they offer every year? How many kids? It's just insane. So the fact that didn't have it on the tip of your tongue is just fine. It allowed me to tell my Antonio Finellis and Aaron Henry story. So we got that. So he's gone. There is the possibility though, they still, I don't know how big of a hope they have, but they're still looking at some other corners. Obviously Zay Gentry is the one that continually that name keeps on popping up, but there are some others as well. And we'll see if they try and add to it, but they do have 20 guys. That commitment took them back to 20. They were at 21 because of Nick Clayton's commitment over the weekend on Saturday. He chose Wisconsin over Florida State and a number of other schools, but it's another edge guy to add to this class. He's about 6'5". I think he listed himself at like 215, but obviously and we can talk to Brady about that, and getting some of these guys, bulked up to be able to play different spots in college, but a nice addition certainly for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think there's some debate as to what the heck happened with Florida State. He went on this visit to Tallahassee, and was he a take? Was he not? Florida State was looking at some other guys, and another guy that I think they thought they were going to get who ended up at Ohio State. Either way, this is a good win for Wisconsin to get a kid from Gainesville, someone who's got a lot of potential, flashes athletically, and now they've got three outside linebackers with differing skill sets, Brendan Ains and Samuel Ladaju, the kid from New Jersey. So their class is pretty well filled out at 20. I don't know whether there's going to be any more ads. Obviously, there's a couple who could potentially still be on the board, but the fact that they've got, 10 commits, maybe it's technically 9 in June with Stroud's decommitment, but they did a ton of work this month, which has traditionally been a huge month for the Badgers on the recruiting trail because you can get these guys up for official visits. So really solid at outside linebacker. And obviously we'll have to wait a couple years to find out what they're trying to build at that position.
Can we expect another story breaking down all the receipts from the first couple of weekends here in June? To see how much, to try and just compare the parents, like which parents are drinking more, which parents are buying those cocktails, and what exactly is happening inside Camp Randall Stadium? Was it laser tag again? Like where we need that information, Jesse.
It takes a long time to get that information. I think I put that request in a long, long time ago for last summer and got them several months later. They may have been lost in the shuffle, and then my request was found at a lot later date. But maybe. They obviously spend a lot of money on these official visits, but as we see, the proof is in the pudding, and they've done significant work.
They have. So obviously the other stuff that's happening is SquatFest coming up this Friday. We'll talk about it with Brady Collins, but what was your experience with that last year?
So I went last year as part of a bigger profile on Brady. Who is this dude? Why is he the most significant hire Luke Fickell has brought, or one of them? I mean, Luke said he wouldn't have taken the job if Brady didn't come with him. Obviously, they had a lot of success at Cincinnati, and it was certainly a spectacle. I know they released some of that video last year on social media with Braylon Allen wearing that big black mask. It's like, it's a party is what it is. I think they had a DJ from Chicago that they brought up who's bumping tunes. They had over 100 LED lights, all sorts of colors flashing. There were all these photos, like printed out photos of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, the most masculine photos you can ever envision, I think, is basically what they did. And it's just like an hour and a half of the culmination of what their summer workouts have been, because this is the tradition, something they obviously started at Cincinnati, but will continue at Wisconsin. It's the last Friday in June. They get this break before the 4th of July, and then kind of come back, and you're starting to mentally prepare yourself for preseason practices. But it is what it sounds like. They do a lot of squats. They do a lot of other things. I remember they had these like punching bags that were on the ground, and each of them had a taped picture of one of the logos of the teams they were going to play that season. And of course, Brady is the MC and the ringleader to this whole thing. He's pumping everybody up. I remember him going in and like elbow dropping the punching bag there to try to motivate some guys. But that's just who Brady is. And I think it's just something fun and different that players can look forward to. It can be pretty mundane. We just go every day and you lift weights and it's the same thing. And to have one thing that you can look forward to that you will tell your teammates about, and probably your kids, just because it's so unusual, it's unique, it's special, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I like, there were some people that like, this is really stupid. I like, you have to be unique. You have to find ways to motivate kids. And it seems like they got into it, which I think is the only thing that really truly matters. Like, there's always cynical people, cynical fans that'll be like, ugh, really? But you're not in that room. You're not on that team. You're not having to, you're not having to be there every single day to work out during the summer. You have to cut through the monotony some way. And there's certainly different ways to do it. And I like this. I like this idea. And again, it's new. And obviously it's not necessarily new overall. They were doing it at Cincinnati as well, but new at Wisconsin, and just a different vibe than certainly what was happening in the weight room prior to their arrival last December. Not even last December before last. So
yeah, part of it is to create camaraderie through adversity too. I mean, like, I don't think that a single workout is going to translate to the field. The idea is that as you build up over time, hypothetically it will, but I remember the very closing, they called it finishers. And I would not want to do this. I'm glad I didn't have to do this when I was a college athlete. They were all laying on the floor, elbow to elbow, and they kind of had interlocked arms. And they split it up. So it's like offense and defense goes separately, but they had to keep their legs about 6 inches off the ground and do these fluttering kicks. And they were all just like absolutely out of gas, but Brady wanted to see who's going to quit and who's going to prop his teammate up and show that he is a leader. And I remember Brady, one of the things he said, he called on Chimere Dike. He said, "What's our thing about finish?" And Chimere said, right in the middle of them straining, was 1-4, coach. And of course, that was the whole offseason mantra of we went 1-4 in fourth quarter games. And so it's hard to directly see that it will translate because it didn't last year. On the other hand, those are the moments that can build you up as a team. And if you do have success, you may look back on them and say this was at least something that was notable.
Yeah. So that's coming up Friday. And you were one of the few media members that got to go last year. They invited everybody this year. So we'll see. We'll get to see a little bit more of the inside of it in the video and all that good stuff that's going to be happening early Friday morning with both the offense, and then is it the offense first and then the defense, right?
All I know is that it's really
very early. Yeah, very early. A little early for people that need their beauty sleep. So, all right. Before we get into the best games you covered, I want to start with the EA thing. So the EA Sports, they're releasing their new video game, right? Coming up in July 19th, second or third week of July. First time since 2013. Obviously, very excited about it. Can't wait to get my hands in the game. All that good stuff. And they are doing their rankings week. It's essentially, I feel like it's their bowl, or their award semifinalist list. Not semifinalists, but preseason candidate awards. Like, they're just releasing, they're doing like a full week of it. And today's release was about the toughest places to play in the game. And At the top of it was Texas A&M. I think there were quite a few people that disagreed with that. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because Wisconsin was number 7. I know you don't have a strong opinion on this, but when you see that, what do you think?
So, yes, Camp Randall Stadium was number 7. I would have been surprised if the Badgers weren't in the top 10. On the other hand, it's largely based on the memories you have from long ago. But I also think we haven't necessarily seen a ton of like those marquee games for Wisconsin because the Badgers haven't been particularly good the last 5 years. And that may contribute to the perspective of why they should or shouldn't be in the top 10. But purely for when the environment is good, it's as good as it gets. The problem is it's not like that every game right now.
It's not every game like that, and it really never has been. If we're being completely honest, it really never has been. It's been good for big games, but there just haven't been a ton of them. Like Ohio State had a chance to be a big game last year, but Wisconsin struggled out of the gate, in the way that they were playing at the time, starting a backup quarterback, coming off that miraculous win against Illinois. Like there were just, it felt like it could have been a big time game. And there are opportunities this year for a big time type of environment, but the team matters. And I feel the same way about Texas A&M being at the top. Like, okay, if Texas A&M is good, sure. The 12th man and all that good stuff. I'm sure it's an extremely tough place to play. They haven't been any good. They haven't been good enough. And so like LSU, tougher place to play. A lot of people were upset with Alabama being up there because it is apparently not an overly tough place to play. I guess we'll find out next year. It's usually the team that is in the stadium, and the team in the stadium means as much as the stadium, right? Like you have to be a good team if you're going to be have great environments. And for the most part, Wisconsin has not been a great environment because they haven't had those marquee games on their schedule. I'm, just going back trying to think the last marquee game on their schedule that had a great environment. I mean, I think you could probably sit there and say like 2021 against Penn State in the opener when everyone got to come back from COVID and you were able to be in the stadium for the first time after not getting to go there in 2020. Like it was good. It was also an 11 a.m. start. That's the other problem I think that rolls into this is how many of their marquee games in recent years have been early starts. They have been. It's let's be fair, it sucks if for an environment. So they have a couple opportunities this year, but I just thinking back, like Michigan in 2019 was pretty good. Obviously had like he did the red and white, the stripe out game, right? So there were opportunities for good environments 5 years ago, and there just haven't been nearly as many. And it's going to matter if the team's good, you'll have a chance to have a good environment. And I don't think Wisconsin at this point probably should be in the top 10. I said before we came on, I don't think they should even be in the top 25. Maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole. But there are other places that probably deserve to be ahead of Wisconsin at this point. I think you're right though. When it's on, it's electric. But that's just the way that Wisconsin it's always been. Like it's never always been every single game at a fever pitch. That's just not how Wisconsin's ever been. So I don't know. Do you think it ever can be that? Like I guess with the schedule that they have and some of the marquee opponents that they're going to have, like it's going to be more consistent, or at least the opportunity for more consistency. But I don't know that it's ever going to be like that.
I look at this year and think, well, if those two games against Oregon and Penn State are in fact in prime time, then they will, to me, be as good as any environment we've seen in the last 5+ years. But
if the team is any good, who cares?
And that's part of it too, is I don't know how good Wisconsin is going to be. At the very least, you'll be seeing a potentially top 5, top 10 Oregon team, top 15 Penn State team. And so that contributes to it. But I agree with you. They always go hand in hand. Some of the most memorable games that we talk about from the last 15, 20 years. I mean, Wisconsin was not just some nobody showing up that was 3-6. There was actually something that felt like there was on the line. So it remains to be seen. But I think it can be that way again. It's just that I don't see from game to game it being consistent because they're not all big games. That's right. What makes the big game special is that it doesn't happen all that often. So the good news is if you're a fan, there will be more of those big games because of how hard the schedule will consistently be given the fact that there are so many quality teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into big games and big environments. The best games that we've covered or attended. Now, obviously, you've covered them since 2011, so your games are going to be from 2011 until now. I grew up here, so I have a lot of experience going to a lot of games. I'm going to try to avoid any games after 2011, and I think I'll probably do a pretty good job because there's plenty of other games to choose from. So, but I'll let you go. What are some of the best games you've attended? Whether it's the game itself, whether it's the environment, whatever it's the moment, the meaning of it, whatever it is, go for it.
I'm gonna guess most people of a certain age will always and forever say the Dane game. I mean, like, how could you not? But obviously, I wasn't there for that in '99 against Iowa. I feel like that's an all timer. But for me, coming in 2011, right in the middle of the season, I came the week after Wisconsin pummeled Nebraska. So unfortunately, I missed the Cornhuskers welcome to the Big Ten moment. But there are two games from that season, neither of which were at Camp Randall Stadium, that to me, I still remember as some of the best games from a what's at stake perspective and just like the spectacle and the quality of the game. The Big Ten championship in 2011, the first Big Ten championship against Michigan State when Russell Wilson threw the pass to Jeff Duckworth. That was like, and that was an all-timer. It was back and forth. It was extremely entertaining. And obviously Wisconsin won and got to go to the Rose Bowl. And the Rose Bowl that year, even though the Badgers didn't win, it was, I believe, 45-38 at the time. It was the highest scoring Rose Bowl game against Oregon. So those are two that stand out from my first season. And it's funny going through this, how many years there are where there was really nothing that was particularly notable from a really memorable perspective. But I won't necessarily go through every game because I feel like you should have the opportunity to name a couple from pre-2011.
Well, I mean, since you didn't name any other games, I'll go 2014 Nebraska, Melvin Gordon, 408, right? The Northwestern game at the end of 2015, where he had 3 touchdowns taken off the board. Jazz Peavy caught it. Right. So you have that. You have 2017, the Michigan game in 2017, where they took care of it. 2019, another Michigan game. And then it kind of ends for me. Okay. So
I have two others in that list. I would put, again, quality and like importance matter, but like for me, the 2017 Big Ten championship game where Wisconsin is sitting with the chance at midfield to go to the college football playoff as an undefeated team, obviously tremendously disappointing from the Badgers perspective, but like, what a game and an opportunity. And I was on the field in those moments. I mean, that's just something I'll probably remember forever. And to me, the most underrated game of the last 13 years is the triple overtime win against Purdue when Jonathan Taylor carried the team on his back. And again, one of the luxuries we have of being able to cover the team is that quite often at the end of those games, you can go onto the field and it was pouring rain. Taylor scores the game-winning touchdown. And I was on the field when his teammates were going up to him and saying, man, you are bleeping different. Just be able to be in on those conversations and see how remarkable Taylor was. I think it'd be remiss if we didn't include at least one of those Taylor games. And like, it was an unexpectedly entertaining game.
Yeah, Jack Cohn brought him back. A couple of ridiculous Danny Davis catches for touchdowns to get that game into overtime. And then, JT kind of took over, with 300 plus, right? So, yeah, those are good choices. I'm shocked that the 2017 Orange Bowl did not somehow make your list of the best games you've ever covered. What a game. They beat Miami and they won the Orange Bowl, which is bigger than the Rose Bowl. So obviously huge congratulations to that 2017 team and Jesse's favorite game that he's ever been at.
We've got to have our recurring gags on the show, and that's it. That was a pretty good game. I mean, it was fun to watch, but I guess it would have been more fun if it was a college football playoff game.
I mean, it certainly would have. And who knows if Quintez Cephas doesn't get hurt against Indiana that year, maybe they have a little bit better chance in that 2017 title game, but they didn't. So games from pre-2011. So more of mine. And I'm not going to pretend that I was alive in the 70s or remember games in the 80s. So it pretty much starts when Barry Alvarez showed up for me. And obviously the 93 Ohio State game stands out. Michigan as well for different reasons, unfortunately. But yeah, and then the 94 Rose Bowl is the best game I've ever been at. And the best game that I don't think that there's ever going to be a game that tops that for me personally. As a kid, everything that went into it, all the stuff, the lead up, and just it had been so long. And so you get that opportunity to win a Rose Bowl. Just absolutely amazing. So then I kind of like, we'll skip over the 98 and 99, even though they were really good. You already mentioned the Dane game. That was a warmer, one of the warmer November games I can ever recall. It was like in the 60s in mid-November, and it was a beautiful day, and it was a 2:30 kickoff, and so you had a chance to enjoy it. And then Dane went and did what he did, broke the record. Guess what? 25th anniversary of him breaking that record is this fall, and he still owns the record. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. The other games that stand out for me that I was actually at, I will say Shaber to Evans in 2003, Ohio State, the first Ohio State game, the Ohio State game that kind of gets overlooked because we 7 years later when they beat number 1 Ohio State. But you think, but that team was on a 20 some odd game winning streak. Ohio State was. They were coming off a national championship, and for them to beat them the way they did after Sorgi gets choked out, and for them to find a way to still win that game with a backup quarterback, very, very impressive, and got to rush the field that night. So that was fun. And then 2010, obviously, Ohio State goes down, but it's really the game the next week that even made it even more special. That was the Iowa game that I think we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where Monte Ball, comes off the bench in relief of an injured James White, and John Clay was kind of banged up too. And he kind of started Monte Ball's ascendancy to what he was able to do over the following however many games he played in 11 and 12 to go along with the back half of that 2010 season. It was just absolutely remarkable what he was able to accomplish. And the Big Ten, clinching the Big Ten championship that year, they just beat the absolute heck out of Northwestern, put up 70 points on them. And then if they had played that Rose Bowl the following week, they win that Rose Bowl. And TCU is a very good team, but they win that Rose Bowl for me personally.
Well, it's a good thing that doesn't happen now, because everyone would be in the portals, even for the Rose Bowl. That Iowa one in 2010 is pretty special. Obviously, it predates me being here, but my colleague who covers Iowa, Scott Docterman, and I, we did an oral history, and we talked to all the major players of that, the fake punt, the way that really changed the trajectory of both programs. Wisconsin obviously ascendant afterward, went to 3 straight Rose Bowls, and Iowa just could not get to the level that Wisconsin was at. So that was a really great rivalry game that had a lot at stake, not just that season, but for the future.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get on here and move on, and we'll talk to Brady Collins, Wisconsin's strength and conditioning coordinator. Yes, we do. We welcome in Wisconsin's strength and conditioning coach. It is Brady Collins. Brady, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, boys. Good to see everybody.
So it is getting towards here the end of the summer, at least for some people. Obviously, a lot of us still want July and August to happen. But for the older guys going through summer conditioning, it's getting towards the end here. Young guys still have a few more weeks and still some other things going on. But it's a big week for you and the program, as SquatFest is getting going again. Your second annual SquatFest, at least at Wisconsin, is going to be held this Friday. You've done it other places. How did it come about, and what is it about?
Yeah, it all started a couple years ago. Everybody I've ever worked for, you kind of had, theme lists throughout the year, whatever it may be. And I always knew I wanted to do something that wasn't like anybody I ever worked for. I wanted to do something that was unique to me, that was unique to, what we do. And, so it started one year. I knew we were having a heavy squat, max day, which you kind of truly never really max out, but, it was a day you were really going to get after it. And, just the whole week I had ideas, talking with the staff. I'm like, let's make this day, let's make it different. Let's make it, fun. And I used to give funny names to a lot of days, like, hey, this is upper body swole fest day, where we're not running. We're just going to lift in the weight room, all upper. And then, so it was a squat day. So I was like, let's call it SquatFest. And, it started, I think originally with just some caution tape, maybe like a strobe light or some type of disco ball, like at each rack or something. And then every single year, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and better. And, probably the icing on the cake was last year here. The production was unbelievable. The lighting, just everything. So, really looking forward to it this week. I know it's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. Again, it's not about any of the weight that the guys do, which, yes, it's impressive to see guys squat, certain weights. And, in the past, it used to be just how heavy can we go? And, this year really challenged myself to really get into, velocity-based training and really utilizing a little more of the sports science stuff. So now guys are still squatting heavy weight, but now you're squatting it for speed. And that's really the whole intent always, is to move weight fast. So it's going to be kind of cool to see. I know the boys are really excited. I'm really excited, and it's going to be a good one.
Brady, when you got here, you had to hit the ground running and probably didn't have much room to breathe for quite a while. You've been here about a year and a half now. With that perspective, what do you think are the most significant things you've learned about the players in this program that you didn't know when you first arrived in Madison?
Yeah, I think it's their, their resiliency, their ability to adapt. And, as I say that, it's not a disrespect to anybody here or any other program, but there's different ways to run a program. There's different ways to train your football players. And, I biased, but I strongly believe in the way that we do it. We're developing your body to be really good at football, but we're also developing your heart and your mind. And we do that through our daily consistency, the way we coach, the way we lead, who we are as husband and fathers. We build generally real, true relationships with these kids to get them to go to certain points they never thought they could, and not just physically, but mentally. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the dudes in the locker room, the leaders that we have that have really stepped up, and, the Hunter Woolers, the Jake Cheneys, the Will Paulings, and you can keep going. But, why are those guys leaders? Well, yes, they're great players, but you peel back the layer. Yeah, they're great workers too. So that entails why they do as well as they do. And just in a much better place right now, full year in, with just the way that we do things, how hard we work, how hard it is still to push your mind and your body to do things, not individually, but together as a team, to win and to compete for championships. And that's ultimately what we're here to do.
When we were talking earlier, you mentioned some of the speed that is on this team. It's always been a thing for Wisconsin. People really get tired of hearing it. Wisconsin doesn't have any speed. And it was, if we're being fair, it was like that for quite some time. It doesn't feel like that's the case anymore, the way that you guys have recruited, the way that you guys have worked, and also certainly the way that you've brought some of the transfer guys in too. What's a speed like looking on this team right now?
There's a lot of it, let me tell you. I think we were talking as a staff the other day, and even with Coach Fick, because him and I'm always sending him the speeds, and he's out there watching. He loves that. I think we had 12 to 15, 20 plus, so 20.2, 20.5 mile an hour guys. We had 9 21 plus, and then we had 3 22 plus. And that was on a day where we really said, hey, this is, we're going to give you more rest. We're not, normally big guys are, 10-yard sprints, and big skill 15 to 20, skill guys 20 to 30. We said we're going to give you more rest. We're really trying to hit this top end speed here, which, again, you're rarely ever going to do in a game unless it's a long run, a long touchdown catch. Never by a DB, hopefully, because they're probably chasing someone down or it's an effort play. And, it was impressive to see that. And then, not only are they fast, and not just wideouts and DBs, but outside linebackers. You had John Pius, who's put on 30 pounds since he got to us in January. He's 250 pounds. He ran 20.8 miles per hour. Like, that's freaky. Jake Cheney is the same body weight that he was last year, 234, but he looks totally different. He's lean. He's faster. Like, his numbers this year don't even compare to last year. Christian Allegro's a 21-plus guy. The back end, Hunter Wooler is a great example of a guy, a full year in the system, who, no doubt, when you press play, let's be real, boys, that's the only speed that matters, and nobody plays as hard and fast as him. But now he's got the other measurables to add to that, and it was impressive to see him run as fast as he did the other day. But, speed helps. Speed's a game changer, no doubt, but it's still going to be about who's the toughest and who's the tightest team, and I feel like we're in a really good position right now in that area as well.
This is the time of year when reporters and fans don't get to see what's happening behind the scenes. So I know you laid out a few guys who have impressed you, but I think it's something people are interested in. Are there some other guys that you feel like, whether they're returning players, transfers, freshmen who are early enrollees, who have stood out either for their speed or their strength?
Yes. Tyler Van Dyke, obviously quarterback, everybody always talks about. He's come in and just drastically, his body, he looks great. He's lean. He's all cut up. He's got veins. He's fast. He ran 20+ mile an hour. His intensity, his leadership. I mean, the guys, they feed off him. Braden Locke as another quarterback, his body looks totally different. He's faster. His confidence. Number one for me has to be Nazir Rukeem. And I say that because Nazir got to us so late last year, coming off an injury. And he looked as skinny as a pencil. And he was as skinny as a pencil. He was barely 170. And he's walking around now 190, pushing to get to 195, maybe 200. I don't know. He could hold it because he's 6'3". But he's so good looking right now. And his work ethic, his leadership. I mean, I call him like a serial killer because he's so locked in. I mean, he is. That's probably not the right word to say, but he's just so locked in. And just, it's awesome because his confidence is through the roof. And you saw it in the spring. Like, he played so much better because he was bigger. He was stronger. He was healthier. But I could keep going. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I mean, you mentioned it. We just had the new freshman came in 3 weeks ago. I mean, Xavier Lucas ran a 4.4 flat. Yeah, he's a track guy, but like when you're 6'2.5", 6'3", already 198, very similar to a certain DB that I had the pleasure of training at my previous stop, who's doing pretty good. You're like, oh boy, okay, this is exciting. Now can we match all that other stuff? But been really pleased with a lot of guys. I mean, even the returning guy, Daryl Peterson, changed his body even more. He's faster. He's leaner. A guy that probably doesn't get as much talked about, but he should because he's one of the freakiest guys I've ever seen. Austin Brown, back in that safety room. The D-line guys have done a great job changing just their mindset, their leadership, their togetherness as a group. No doubt my heart and my love's always with my O-linemen. I love those big boys. They look good. They're tough. They're strong. Coach Blah's done an unbelievable job with them. Obviously, Ches, coming off his injury, doing what he's doing, running the speeds that he's running. Nobody cares about his bench and squat, but I'm telling you, he is to be, a seasoned veteran like he is, to be in the shape that he's in, bodes well for the Badgers, that's for sure. So I could keep going. I could give you names upon names, but, even a guy like Rico Holman, he's changed his body. He's gotten faster. And, what does that do to him? Hopefully it gives him more confidence. And, because is he going to get 7 picks again? I don't know. I hope so. But we all know there's a shining light on that kid now because of what he did last year. And hopefully we draw a lot more attention to that because, as we all know, when your team's really good and you play well, you get more attention. So, we're trying to do that and put this team in the best position to go compete for championships.
So I wanted to talk about all the corners because you guys have recruited so many tall ones, very similar. For anybody that has no idea who Brady's talking about, what he's talking about his previous stop, he's talking about Sauce Gardner, one of, if not the top cornerback in the NFL right now, who is a bigger body. But how do you decide how to train those guys? How do you decide like how much weight they can handle and still be able to perform at the level they need to on the outside? Because you have quite a few of them out there, even like you just have quite a few of them out there that are all 6'2", 6'3", even a guy out there that's 6'4".
Yeah, and Amari Snowden. Yeah, that's right. It's always, I kind of call it like not a science experience or experiment where like, you're mixing all these things, but obviously having experience in this field for so long and understanding body types, understanding genetics, number one, right? I mean, I can make your body look good, but I can't make you grow. I wish I could say that, But
I wish you could too.
I know. When you come in and you're young, I mean, our growth plates, they're open from, 16 to 25. Unless you're like me, you just stop growing in 8th grade, which is fine, whatever. So I think it's really about the evolution of how we train our guys, how we take them through when they get to us, assessing their movements, assessing their biomechanics of everything that they do, getting their body fat, looking at their shoulders, looking at their hips, looking at their feet, looking at their ankles, and not just saying, okay, this guy's an O-lineman, he needs to be 315, the prototypical weight. Like, no, because, a great point of that is, we got here last year, Tanner Bortolini was like, I think 290 maybe, or like 285. Now I get it's coming off bowl practice and a little break. Then he played all year about 305. Heaviest he ever was 311. He put on lean mass. This year, Kevin Haywood comes to us. He's 6'8", 6'9", 290, like 3 pounds. Now he's walking around 320. Well, I didn't make him grow. He's already that tall, but he's put on lean mass. So his body looks better. He's leaner. He's faster. He's stronger. It's just about working with the kid, seeing how their genetics and their body adapt to our training, to the amount of food that you get to eat, working with our nutritionist, Sophie, putting a great plan together for them individually. And then, also just seeing what they can do when they start to gain that weight, because sometimes it could be, hey, coach, this doesn't feel too good. My back's tight, or I don't know, I just don't feel as good. Okay, well, if you're at a pretty healthy weight to play big boy, Big Ten football, then we don't need to push weight, right? Like you don't have to have, the 330-pound O lineman unless you're 6'9", but it's just about what's healthy, what's lean, what's durable, and ultimately what wins. And so, it's really cool because, again, skinny guys are always nervous about putting on weight because they think they're going to get slower. And it's like, dude, just give us 3 weeks. Wait till you see how much faster you get.
You've worked with Luke Fickell for several years now, obviously had a lot of success together. What's the experience been like working together specifically at Wisconsin, and the types of conversations you guys have to try and get the Badgers to that championship level? Because as you saw, it was at Cincinnati, it was a process, but eventually you guys got there.
Yeah, no, I think it's what drives us every single day. Very blessed to have an unbelievable relationship with him, his family, extremely honored and just, privilege. All those words don't even amount to what I owe that man, but no, it's motivating. It's what we want. Like, we came here to take this place to those levels. We came here to go against the best, and we're going to build it the right way. We're going to do things the right way. And people can talk about all that other stuff out there in the world. It doesn't matter. It's still about the locker room. It's still about developing young men to get them to become a team, to do things together. That's why football is the greatest sport. It can't be done on one side of the ball. It can't be done on all sides of the ball. It takes an entire team. And, it drives us every single day. And yes, we've gone through, a similar process at previous places and all that stuff, but it's always different. And no doubt we're always looking for that challenge. And every single year it's a challenge. Whether you win 10 to 12 games or not, the next year it's going to still be a challenge. So we feed off that. And, we're in a great place right now. Coach has done a great job. His plan, with everything that we did, coming back from the bowl game to the way we trained to our plan into spring and then now summer. And then when we come back after this break next week of getting into, the OTAs of things. And then, we'll be here in camp before you know it, boys. And then kicking off Friday night. Let's go.
So last spring, when their first spring here, a lot of the talk or a lot of the motivation, I guess, within the weight room was about that 1-4 in fourth quarter games. The focus this offseason, what has been like that rallying cry for you this offseason?
It's really been, all of those things, right? And it was a huge emphasis on us last year because, coming in from the outside at that time, that was one of the first things you noticed. And I used to do this every single year, and I still do, is I keep, in my phone a log of how many points we score in each quarter in every game. And I always found that interesting because as we build a program and as you get it humming the way you want it, you tend to see that you start to dominate the second half. And why is that? Selfishly, it's because the way you train, the way you practice. Like, we're going to start fast, but then we're also going to finish you off. And so obviously, we preached it a lot and we pushed for it. Okay. We went through a lot of adversity last year, which is only going to make us tougher and better this year. Yes, additions, subtractions, all those things, new coaches. It's all a melting pot, again, about the team. But, this year it's the same motto that Coach Fick installed the day we got back. It's hunter be hunted. And I use that personally. I really do. I tell the kids all the time. And I got to tell it finally to the freshmen today because they were kind of feeling themselves after the run and a little tired. And, somebody out there is trying to whoop your ass every single day, whether it's another position, whether it's your own position, whether it's someone at Alabama, someone at USC, it doesn't matter. Therefore, or in turn, someone out there is trying to coach a team better than me and my staff. I take that personally because I know that ain't going to happen. And again, it's not because we're doing this on this day and we're lifting it this way. No, it's why we do it and who we do it with. And so, there's a lot of things that you really emphasize. Obviously, it's holding each other accountable is huge. Really, holding the standard of what we do every single day, setting it, holding it, and not accepting any of the selfishness, the softness, the laziness of anything. And again, when you have high-end leaders like we do that are really great players and really great workers, they control that. And, couldn't say that last year because you're starting to learn everybody and you're seeing, what makes them tick. But let's face it, you really, truly don't know until you go through a season, right? Until you really play the game. And so, again, I know I'm biased, but feel a lot better about where we're at right now as opposed to last year for sure.
you've gotten very creative in terms of how you come up with games to create competition in your weight room. I know we talked about this last summer, but I'm wondering this offseason, are there any stories that stand out for some fun moments or things you've done to push the competition to get these guys ready for the season?
Yeah, I mean, again, and a lot of times it's just silly. Like even today, after we did our warm up, it was an offense guy and a defense guy. So, all right, quick, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, boom, boom, boom. And they have no idea what it's going to be. But I'm like, all right, do you want to start on the med balls first or the chain sprints? And they're like, oh, yeah, med balls. I mean, there's so many other things that we do, whether it's in the weight room. Hey, on this last set, it's you versus him. Who's going to get the most reps? Hey, older guy, I'm putting you with this young buck. He can't fail. You got to push him to the net. Like, because it just means more when it's from them. But I think probably the best thing we did this year was our Memorial Day celebration. That was pretty cool. We started, and then, you have that Memorial Day weekend break. And the older guys, Hunter Wohler, Cheney, all those guys came there like, Coach, man, we're all here. We don't want a 3-day break. Let's train, and then let's do something fun. I'm like, I got you. We could do something fun. So, we went and to Lake Monona right there on the banks, and we had some inflatable competitions going. One that was probably the most grueling thing ever was like a 45-yard obstacle course. We had another obstacle course. We had a jousting basketball arena. We played wiffle ball, which was really cool to see, but it really wasn't wiffle ball. You're playing with a wood bat and a dodgeball, so that was fun because the only way you get out, you got to throw the guy out, and you just got to hit him. There was cornhole, that new golf game where it's like you hit bucket golf. And it was just fun because, we had a good workout earlier in the day, and then guys just got to go be kids, man. Like, just be around each other in a different environment, eat together, play games, and then go enjoy the rest of your day. But there's always fun, creative things, no doubt, that we're doing.
So there's been that big conversation earlier this summer about could NFL players play in the NBA? Could NBA players play in the NFL? Do you have some guys on your team that think they can play basketball? Because I've seen that there's a basketball hoop in your weight room, and I saw obviously Tretch was in there dunking at 5'8", and obviously
5'9".
I think 5'9". Okay, then there's Will Pauling was in there too. Do you have some guys that think they can?
That was the Zapruder film from Longo, wasn't it?
It was. We took that on. What potato did he take that on? Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is guys always think they can play hoops, man. And, we got a hoop in the weight room. It's for fun. I love it just because after like upper body lifts, guys are like shooting and they can like barely shoot. It's fun. But it's even more freaky after like lower body lifts. When guys like that day was Tretch dunking and you're like, dude, you just squatted heavy and ran and all these things. You're like, man, that just shows you how freak some of these kids are. But I think I've seen a couple guys really shoot, really kind of move around a little bit. Hey, if they think they can, cool. But I sure as hope, that they stick to football because they're pretty good at that too. But yeah, I don't know about the NBA players playing football. I'm not too sure about that. I don't know about that. They tend to be a little more, I don't know what the word would be, but not soft, but just
You wanted to say soft.
I did, but I don't want to hurt any basketball fans out there.
Brady, you've got all those hats in your office. I know they represent the players that you've trained that went on to the NFL. How much do you use that, if at all, as a motivating point for the current guys as a potential path to success? Do you talk about that at all?
No, because I think that's just one. I'm not trying to be a me guy or anything like that. It definitely takes a village. It takes this whole program. It takes my entire staff as well. But they do mean something to me. I mean, those are like the guys that I've trained. I mean, from day one till their last day, and that they were, handpicked by the NFL. I mean, I should have every hat on there because guys that I've trained, no matter what, no matter where I've been, they're at every team in the NFL. But for me, it is kind of cool. It is kind of, hopefully when recruits are in here, they do see that too. And, it is one of those kind of benefits that, like this year, the Colts organization does an unbelievable job. They send you, custom football. And it says Tanner Bornolini, Coach Brady Collins on there, drafted 4th round, whatever it may. And it's like, those are those cool moments, but like I said, our job is to develop them to be the best football players they can be. But no doubt I care about them as men, future husbands, fathers, businessmen, whatever it may be when football's done. So I'll go to the draft with you like I did before. I'll hug you up. I'll wear your hat. I'll do whatever it is. But hopefully I'm at your wedding or something like that too down the road too.
Chris Ballard, Badger. So
that's right. That's it.
Got that.
No surprise why they do things the right way, gentlemen.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because Bruce Feldman, Jesse's coworker at The Athletic, does like the freaks list, right?
Yes.
If you had a list of guys throughout the time that you've been a strength coach, every stop you've been at, who are some of the guys that would be on the top of that list?
Well, you got to help me out with this, Jesse, because last year I don't think anybody gave me a heads up on that. And I used to always get direct, like Feldman would hit me up at Cincy because we had a bunch of them. So help me out this year, because it's not about anything about us. It's just more notoriety and love for our guys. And we have a ton of freaks on this team. So I want that for them. I want them to get that notoriety and be talked about in that light. Because not only are they freaky in here, what really matters, they're freaky on the football field. But, Will Pauling's up there. He is. Jake Chaney's up there. I mean, to do some of the things that kid can do, my God. But obviously, Sauce was up there, Alec Pierce, Majay Sanders, Trey Tucker, Tyler Scott. I mean, just a bunch of guys that I've been blessed to work with. I don't even think back in the day, but it might have been like the first year when I was at Mississippi State. I mean, Dak Prescott, yeah. I mean, to be a quarterback that big and that strong and fast, but help me out, Jesse. Let's get some Badgers on there, man.
Well, I'll hit him up. I don't know how many he's going to put on there, but there's at least 2 or 3 every year. So
I'm going to get, I think the record we had at Cincy was like 6. So I'm going to give him like 3rd. No, I'm kidding. You got to earn that right.
You played running back at Division III Otterbein in Ohio. How would you rate yourself as a player?
Man, let's see. It was a long time ago. I mean, I was like a halfback fullback, back when they still had fullbacks. So I always knew, I wasn't going D1. Like I had, D1 walk-on offers and all that stuff, and I could have done that. But I loved the game too much. And I really was one of those rare birds that at a young age, I really knew what I wanted to do in my life. Like I knew I wanted to be around sports. I knew I wanted to be around the weight room. At first it might have been like athletic training or whatnot. And so I always kind of knew in the back of my mind, all right, I'm going to go play football because I love it. I'm going to do it till I can't no more. And then, I'm obviously getting my degree to do what I want to do after football. But what kind of player was I? I was pretty nasty. I was tough as shit. Let's see. I was probably the heaviest I ever played was like 225, 230 maybe. I wasn't probably going to blaze you when I was that big, but, I was shifty. I was athletic. I was quick. But I was a great teammate. And I think my senior year, I only had maybe 20 or so carries because we had a really good tailback that I was blocking for. So if I didn't get the ball, I was just cutting out the end or running into the flat to get a linebacker to chase me while the fast guys ran the other way.
Is there anybody on this Badgers team that you see yourself, right? Not in terms of talent. I know I know you're not going to put yourself talent wise up there, but just like the type of player that a guy is.
I mean, if you ask me who it's Hunter Wooler, a guy that's just playing for the love of the game, is one of the boys, right? Like he's beefing it up with the O linemen. He's with the DBs. He's with the D line. He's with running backs. Like, doesn't matter who he's with. He's going to get the best out of him. He's going to have a good time. He's going to work his butt off. He doesn't care what he puts up numbers wise, all that stuff. You just know you're going to get every ounce of him every single day. And, I can see myself in that light as far as, you do it for the love of the game.
All right. Hey, Brady, really appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing you guys on Friday at SquatFest and then obviously fall camp coming up here pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Going to be a good one, boys. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Appreciate Brady Collins jumping on. Good times with him. And I mean, I'm anxious to see like what these guys look like. The way that he talks about them, they're going to be walking in there like He-Man with some of the, like being shredded like they are. But the fact that you have that many guys running over 20, especially your quarterback who we've talked about him being more involved in the run game, especially at his size, I think that's intriguing.
It's
again, I don't know what it's going to look like. And really it's going to come down to whether he can throw the ball at a high level, whether that offense is going to be exactly where it needs to be. But that has to be exciting I'm sure it's exciting for fans to hear.
It's definitely a good sign, is what I was going to say. They seem to be moving in the right direction. Obviously, what you do in the weight room is so important, and most of the time we don't get to see it other than SquatFest. So, but I'm really looking forward to fall camp and seeing what the product looks like with the full roster, because we did see spring practice, but they added a couple transfers. Obviously, they have some very talented freshmen, and what will it look like when it starts to come together?
Intriguing. Can't wait. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, there he is, Jesse Temple from The Athletic. You've been listening to The Camp.